This is Spencer Colgan and welcome back to my wallpaper and painting channel. Behind me is a Phillip Jeffries faux, F-A-U-X, grass cloth. It is from edge to edge 52¼ inches. Okay? Now, I make the video for those homeowners who love their rich colored grass cloths and they want to do it themselves. Okay, it's a small wall, and so we need less than 4 sheets of this product. The question is, can you butt the seams up against each other? In other words, is this edge straight? Well, it looks perfectly straight, right? It's a factory cut. And for the most part, it is straight. But it is not perfectly straight. And the edges are in good shape. In other words, when it's stored, sometimes you see little ripples, right? And parts where it won't lay down. Maybe you use a little heat. But if you use a little heat, you may discolor it or put too much heat on it. Therefore, you're going to want to trim the edges on the wall. And so this is where the tape comes in. I'm using 1.5 inch blue tape. And I'll show you shortly why. Why are we using that? Well, if I'm not going to butt them, a butt joint is you put it right up against the seam. Well, that works in conventional wall covering, but this isn't conventional. This is essentially a commercial wall covering. It's over 50 inches wide, and it's very heavy when you put paste on it, and you can't paste the wall because the paste needs to soak to the backing of this. And so the goal is going to be to take the next sheet and overlap it onto here, and I can bring my next edge all the way up to the end. I don't want it on the edge. I don't want the paste. I want to protect this wall covering from getting paste on it. So I might give myself 1/8 inch from the edge, making sure that it's straight all the way down. Then I know it's straight. And then I'm going to take my laser and cut it right down, somewhere in the middle. So that's the goal. And whatever I do on this side, however much I cut off on this side, is what I want to cut off on the other side. I want to come probably right in the middle. Okay? So let's do that. Let's get the next sheet up. So this was my first sheet, and that is the top of the first sheet. That's the bottom of the first sheet. The second sheet, you want to make sure that you flip it so that you reduce what's called paneling or shading. Let me show you what I mean. This is my sheet of wallpaper. Once I cut this, this is my left side, that's my right side. When I cut this, do I take now this sheet and transfer it up to here so that the left side is against the right side of the next sheet? Or rather, do I take this sheet, turn it upside down, so that the right side of the second sheet is up against the right side of the first sheet? And that's what you're going to do, because the right side, when I cut it off, my second sheet is going to, my right side over here is going to be flipped around so that the right sides can reunite, instead of taking this side of the sheet, transferring it over here, and putting a left side of this roll up against the right side. Now, when the color is applied, it looks perfectly even, doesn't it, in color? Well, your eye cannot detect the variations in color on this beautiful product. It can't until there's a differential. And the differential in color will be manifested greatly If you take the second sheet and you don't reverse it, your eyes will become like they were when you were 15. Perfect. And you'll see that the left side coloring is slightly different than the right side. It's just the nature of the beast. Okay, so I am holding. Now, a lot of folks as they get older, it's hard to do this. It's a lot of weight here. And paper hangers stopped doing commercial grade wallpaper, especially production. It's a lot of work. So now I have reversed this already and I've labeled the top so that I don't forget. So I just make a pencil mark on the backing, B for bottom, T for top. Let's do this. You always want to have a microfiber, clean, wet, not dripping, cloth with you. I want the reveal. The reveal is the blue line that you see. I want it to be equal from top to bottom, which means that my space will be equal, provided that my first sheet is plumb. Plumb means straight. It's what a lot of people call level, but it's straight, top to bottom. With clean hands, I'm constantly wiping because I don't want paste. The last thing you want is a callback. I turn the lights on and I can see paste at the bottom and at the top. You don't want that. Now I'm going to give you very important tips. Learn from me, because I made all the mistakes that you don't have to. General rule, stay away from your seam. That's it. Don't do anything more than go over it once. Okay, here's why. Here's why. You know I'm overlapped here, remember? What do you think's gonna happen to this part of the wallpaper if I keep going over and over and over it again? You're gonna burnish this. You're gonna burnish it. You're gonna make a shiny mark on it. You ever see? I was a police officer up in New York, and there were some frugal, let's call them frugal police officers who didn't like to buy new uniform pants. And so their wallets would make a mark, and it was never straight, it was always like crooked, in the back of their pants because they burnished the fabric. If I rub this too much, I'm going to do that, and you don't want to do that. You've ruined the product. It's $2 at Harbor Freight. Maybe $3 now, but no more than $3. It's nice and wide. Don't worry about damaging the product. Nice and hard. Get those bubbles out. better to go with the grain than against it. But if you're going to go against it, remember, don't do it too much. Okay? Okay. Okay. If you look closely, you can see I'm pushing air out of this. Let me see if I can show you. See that? See the air I'm pushing out? So you got to do it. But don't, just be reasonable. Remember, stay away from the seam. Gentle, gentle, gentle. Okay. So, no need to cut it just yet. Our wall covering is protected with the tape. We can leave this sit here. The vinyl can relax a bit, okay? In the meantime, I'm going to prepare this side. I'm going to paste this sheet, and we'll come back and cut this. I like to give it a little relaxation, because once you cut it, the only way to get it back together, if it splits a bit, is pushing. It's a lot of pushing. You can do it, but it's a lot of effort. Right now, it can slide a bit, even if it goes a 64th of an inch. It's relaxing. You see where it's sitting up there? You know, let it relax. And I didn't want to paste the very edge, so I left 1/4 of an inch unpasted, so that I don't want it on this at all. So you'll see when we cut, it'll be nice and straight. Okay. So this strip is going to be approximately 10 inches on the left side of the wall, and this is approximately 10 inches on the right side of the wall. Keeping with my rule of reversing every other sheet, we maintain, so I make a note, top left side, bottom right side. This way I won't forget to reverse the pattern, to keep with our rule to prevent or minimize shading. Okay. So you see that? That's the piece underneath. So that's what I'm talking about when I say go easy. You don't want to keep doing this. You'll wind up burnishing it, okay? Nice strokes. Ideally, with wallpaper, you want to start in the middle, so you're not pushing bubbles all the way across this. You start in the middle like a Christmas tree, down and over. Let me show you. Start in the middle. Got a glue mess. Okay, let me show you. So we have our seams developing. Okay. If there's any time you want to go slow hanging paper, it's while making a double cut. If there's any time you want to go really slow hanging paper, it's while making a double cut on vinyl. Let me bring it down. I took my guide, I put it on the laser, and cut up against it. I'm throwing away the overlap and the underlap. And this is my overlap. And you can see the paper underneath it is protected by the tape. And here comes the underlap. Your question will be, how hard do I press? Your other question will be, how do you know you're not going through the sheetrock? The answer is this. You must press hard enough to penetrate the vinyl you're hanging. And the second answer is, you need to know how hard is too hard. Because if you find out the hard way how light is too light, you won't worry as much about how hard is too hard. The problem with this is, primarily, how light is too light. If you don't penetrate both layers, you're in trouble, and I mean it. In that case, you'd have to lift this piece over, move it over again, and do another cut. But if you have all your pieces established already, that's not easy. So, press harder than lighter and practice. Take a couple of pieces off of the roll and do a double cut practice. If this is your first time, I'd say try 5 times before you attempt to do this. Because if you don't penetrate both layers, which I've done, you're going to wind up with a bad seam. Okay, once again, we'll do this. This slides on the vinyl. On the back, you can put, you know those things that go in your sink, those little rubber things, or under your drain, not your drain, where you put your dishes in, after you clean them, they drip. And underneath that is a rubber-like thing. Well, you could affix that to here so that it doesn't slide, okay? It's a pain. I'm only going in about 6-inch increments because if I go any more, my edge will kick out. Your blade needs to be straight on with the wall. It can't be on an angle. Because then you'll shave the side of the wall covering. Instead of cutting straight through it. And that will cause the top of the wall covering to be cut on an angle, which will reveal the guts of the wallpaper. You want to cut it straight at a 90 with the wall. I pull off my overlap. Then I pull my tape. Which protected the wall covering edge from getting paste on it. And now I will remove the underlap. Okay. Kill the battery to the laser. I gently go over this. Gently. I don't want to push out paste, but I have to push it down. It's a firm but gentle approach. I'm going to show you something about threads and what to do with them. Let me push this down. I'm going to go back and forth while I smooth this out. Let me show you why. If I go back and forth on my seam, I'm feeling for vinyl standing proud. So if I feel it, if I go over the seam and I either go down a step or I go up a step, it means that my seam has a sheet standing proud, which has to be pushed down. So if I felt a hump, if I felt a bump here, this is standing proud. If I do this and I go down when I cross the seam, this is standing proud. And I have to make sure that I knock it down. Now, what about this? What's that? Look at this. What happens when you pull it? Oh, wow. It just gets longer and longer. Not a problem. What happens when you cut these products is that you're cutting across threads. So, necessarily, they're going to be, you freeing them from being bound. Picture the edge of your carpet, right? It's all bound. If you cut it, you're going to keep losing carpet every time you vacuum, right? So you have to cut it and then pull it out. Okay? Look at how gorgeous that seam is. Oh my goodness, I love this. Look at this. Nothing is proud here. You know what I mean by standing proud. It's just sitting up. Okay? And why is that? Because Spencer's only a human being when he cut it. That's why. This is the way you do it. Take your thumb, go this way, because then you'll stop it from spreading. And then you take your blade and you put it right in there and you press right into the seam. Okay, let's do it again. Do me a favor, click on like. You know, I take a lot of time to make the videos. And people do not give you the likes that you need. Advertisers want to see that you're watching it. Okay, oh, standing proud, see? Now, remember how we do that? Watch. I just want to, oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. I knocked it all down, but I also pulled out some paste, didn't I? Nice and gentle. Nothing dramatic, not too hard at the seam, you know? Nice and easy. Use your palm. Don't be doing this. You know why? You're gonna make fingerprints on it. Gentle, gentle. I installed blue wallpaper, blue vinyl ones. This happened on every seam, like 3 feet long. I was ready to call it quits and go back to being an unemployed. Nah, just kidding. It was really frustrating, you know? Gorgeous. Okay, I did the same thing with the far right side, remembering which was the top and which was the bottom. By the way, how do you wipe paste off of this wallpaper? This way? Or this way? Who says it doesn't matter? Who says this way? And who says this way? Well, if you said it didn't matter, you're wrong. And if you said you do it this way, you're wrong. Because you need to get the paste out from these grooves. And so ideally, you would only go in one, ideally, if you had paste on here, you would only go in one direction. Why one direction? You have a better chance of getting the paste off of the wall covering, particularly at the seam, if you only go in one direction, rather than going like this, back and forth, building a mountain of paste in the center. Eventually, you would get it all off if you just went in one direction, if you had paste there. Now, I have to say, I'm impressed with this particular Phillip Jeffries product, because the seams are barely noticeable. Now, you know with grass cloth, if you're an installer, grass cloth seams are part of what makes the beauty of grass cloth. But remember, this is a faux grass cloth, so it's vinyl. But I'm impressed nonetheless how they really got the color down correct. So anyway, that's my compliment toward Phillip Jeffries. And so you see, when you come in the room, you can see the first panel. It's symmetrical. If you're at this table, you happen to glance at the wall, it's important that you have, if your seams are visible or somewhat visible, that they be symmetrical. Okay? And if you were going around the room here, you could indulge and do the same thing for each wall, keeping each of the seams symmetrically placed in proportion to the width of the wall. But that would cause some waste, which costs money. This stuff isn't cheap. But if you're going to be living with a wall covering for 10 years, you may want to spend the extra money to have symmetry. Okay, you saw how we did it. No need to recap. Thank you for watching. Please click on like. Hit the like button. And please make a comment. Here's an example of one side standing proud. Watch. Let me wipe that off. Nice and gentle. Can't get any more gentle than that microfiber. Now, can you see the seam standing proud? Oh, going up. Hear it? This is how I do it. I come in on an angle. We are talking about millimeters, hundredths of an inch to knock it down. Don't do too much force. That just knocked it down.